Change. Something most of us fear. Something most of us dismiss. But why is it so? Why is a change something unwelcome? Let's try rephrasing our questions. Why not have a change? Let's see. This is me 5 years back. The stick man is more aesthetic than 12-year-old me with braces. Up until that moment, all I knew was chocolate. And this was the first time that I wondered, should I try red velvet? But why should I try it now? What if I don't like it? Do you see what's happening here? Because of my fear of discovering something that I might not like, I'm choosing something familiar to me and avoiding change. I mean, what potential damage could a pastry cause? But this is what happens to most of us. Let's try to look at it from a different perspective. If you try out something new and you like it, good for you. And if you don't, you know what not to do the next time. When we resist changes, we are forcing ourselves inside a box of familiarity, even though it is not what we need at that moment, just because of the fear of the unknown. For instance, 2 years ago, I was at a school where I had been for the past decade. And year after year, I wouldn't do anything out of my comfort zone. I wouldn't put in any efforts to do something I was not comfortable with. I was terrified of speaking up and I avoided it. This eventually became my personality. But the irony is, regardless of me accepting or resisting a change, it was my personality that did change. I realized that change is an ever-flowing river, and resisting it is like trying to swim against a strong current. As I faced challenges with changes in new academic styles, family structures, and whatnot, I had two options. Either go with the flow in its truest sense and use that force to shape myself into someone I wanted to become, or spend time and energy trying to resist that change and ending up with a version of myself that I did not want. And I made my choice. Coming to the new school, I had to prepare a brief speech. Quite easy, right? A 1-minute speech in an online environment with your cameras off. But this is something that I had resisted very well in the last 10 years. Which is why it was extremely difficult for me to speak in front of more than 2 people. But I was tired of being inside the box. So, I pushed myself. I kept on repeating the words, hoping I wouldn't stutter through the speech, hoping I wouldn't fail. And on a day of the speech, I failed. I messed up. But hold that thought. What I felt at that moment was not disappointment. Instead, it was contentment. Here's why. I had done something that I thought I wasn't capable of, and I enjoyed it. I did not nail it the first time I tried it out. So what? I can practice more. I can push myself into that zone of discomfort. And well, here I am. I realized that most of my fears that were keeping me from even trying in the first place could only be rationalized in that state of extreme resistance to change. It is said that man is a creature of habit, and our brains, they are biological machines that gauge information based on the data that has been accumulated over the years from all our experiences. So, if you'd had an experience where you dealt with a failure or a conflict in context to a change, your brain automatically starts ringing an alarm. There's an internal conflict within yourself causing the resistance to change. But at the end of the day, it has to be you who controls your mind and not the other way around. Karen Salmanson said, "What if I told you that 10 years from now, your life would be exactly the same, I doubt you'd be happy. And I couldn't agree more. Which is why we are going to wrap our way through changes. Hey, yo, we're about to start the show. Okay, no. I can't rap. And thank God that ended, right? What I meant is reflection, awareness, practice, and a positive mindset. Let's look at the first one, reflection. I want you to think of a time when you consciously and voluntarily chose a change, and think of the biggest long-term impact it left on you. The reason I said long-term is because we often tend to avoid a small discomfort or a small decision as a poor solution and a missed opportunity of a lifetime to a short-term problem. Which is why, when your brain starts ringing that alarm, silence it. Stop thinking for a moment and take a deep breath. Come back, think about the pros and the cons. See which one outweighs the other before you avoid that change. After which, we move on to awareness. We need to address the misconception that change is always something huge or extraordinary. It's not. If you took a new path to your favorite diner, it's a change. If you started a new diet, it's a change. We need to appreciate these small variations and embrace them. After which, we practice them. Here, we are going to consciously choose to do an activity differently or take up a new activity for a month. You're basically providing a new data for your brain to analyze and become familiar with changes. Again, it could be the most mundane thing in your life that you can use to come out of that state of resistance. Discovering a new genre of music, starting to cook for yourself, everything. And then we move on to a positive mindset. This is the strongest tool that you can use to overcome any challenge. A positive mindset is what differentiates us. Let's see that there are two people, X and Y. Both of them have shifted to a new country and are surrounded by new people, new languages, and new cultures. On one hand, we have X. He has had a fair share of difficulties and failures as he tried to adapt to this new predicament. But he persevered through them by holding on to that one positive thing throughout his day that he may have experienced. Maybe it was his weekly outing with his friends, or the A he scored on a test, anything. Whenever the problems became too much to handle, he would just, in a way, reboot his mind to think about positive and the negative consequences, instead of solely focusing on one. And then, on the other hand, we have Y. She fails to look past that one obstacle that she hasn't overcome yet, shifting her focus all onto one negative outcome. This makes her feel out of control in aspects of her life that she is well in control of. The way they are differentiated is that X tries to anchor himself in the present moment by thinking about both positive and the negative outcomes. But Y solely focuses on the negative outcomes. The concept of positive mindset doesn't say you can be anything or you can do anything. It is rather about how you can have realistic outcomes and substantial growth by choosing to become familiar with unfamiliar circumstances. Rapping is not to eliminate that resistance to change or the fear of it. In fact, it is needed for psychological functioning. This is just a small step that we can take to avoid getting overwhelmed in the face of challenges with jobs, relationships, ailments, and of course, pandemics. Change is like a box of mixed candy. There are some flavors you love and some you hate. But to figure out what you want and what you don't, you need to take the initiative. You need to try out everything to see what works the best for you. Tackling changes is a Herculean task, but it can only be done by accepting the fact that you can sulk around as you try to adapt to a new change, but you cannot let those negative thoughts consume you. That cannot be your only focus. Don't lose the sight of one good thing that the change has led to. Change is a chance at the same time. It is an opportunity to learn and to grow, which is why we need to stop running away from changes. We need to embrace them. Thank you.